So you're terminated without unemployment. And you might have no money, no income, you have no time to interview. You're just kind of left out like, garbage thrown in the street.
So the first thing I always ask everyone is kind of for your backstory. How did you get involved in the business?
So I did like freelance marketing promotions for years and years and years before I went to my first round interview. Loved it. So the in-store demo thing to me wasn't that weird. I did all, retail face to face. But I just graduated college, so it was time to, get a grown-up job. So I went to my first round interview. Didn't really think that much about it because, it's all of 4 minutes long. I went to my second round. It looked like a promotion to me, which I had been doing for the past few years, so that looked normal. And then just accepted the offer because it just felt right. Like I liked the atmosphere, the culture. Everyone seemed really happy.
So you began your experience in the office of a regional consultant in Arizona who is very well known in the business. What was your perception of her and of her office as you were going through the business?
I really had like through the business or just like the first few.
We could start with the beginning and then evolve.
Yeah. Yeah, because things evolved for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, my first thought, like in my first round interview, I was like, well, this girl is really motivating. She has her own office. We're the exact same age. So I thought like, wow, this is really great. So I didn't really see any red flags off the bat. And it really was like my first, like grown-up job out of college. But as I went through the business, I was locked in immediately. So I didn't really have any red flags in the beginning. I was motivated by the team. The culture was so fun. My regional consultant at the time wasn't a regional yet. She actually ran the business with another owner who she had initially she was her leader, the owner she co-ran the office with in California. So I thought that was cool that they had like that friendship throughout like the field. We had a good relationship, and the way she spoke to me, I felt like it was, a good partnership through the field, at least.
So you mentioned you didn't have any red flags at the beginning. When did you start seeing red flags, number one? And did you recognize them as red flags? Or I know many owners I've talked to just kind of brushed them, myself included, brushed them past.
Right, yeah. What office were you in, or what division were you in?
I was in the roadshow division out of Chicago.
Gotcha, okay. Um, I mean, I really ignored them. Like you did, you ignore them,
Mm-hmm.
When you're so locked in, you're so locked in. So it's ignoring if my friends thought it was weird that I was always talking about work, that I was working so much, that was normal. Kind of just think it's all normal. So
Yeah.
I didn't really think anything of it until really, ownership, honestly.
Sure. I did a little bit of digging. I found a photo. I was able to find some photos of you. So the office that you owned,
Yeah.
there's really little trace of it in left. It was this business makes a point of it to try to erase
Yep.
failed offices, and they did a really good job with this one because it was very hard for me to find anything on it. But I dug a little deeper and found your original office, and I found a photo of you holding an award when you were promoted to ownership,
Yeah.
and you were surrounded by dozens of people. So you said yourself things kind of changed when you made it to ownership. So tell me a little bit about your experience as an owner and how the reality differed from the picture that you were painted.
Ownership is so different from what it's made up to be or not made up to be, because I'm sure a few people experience more positives. Um, yeah, like in that picture, when I was promoted to assistant management. That was in August, I believe. I didn't actually open my office until March. So I had that entire time where I was doing, the first round, the third round. I was still in the field. I was actually working, I think, every single day. I was given the option to have like Sundays off, but I needed the field money on Sundays. But once I got, from that happy picture where I was promoted to my own office, it's completely different. It's completely different. Um, I don't even really know where to start with that because it's so different. I mean, when you first open up your office, you're so excited and everything's great. And three of the girls moved with me, and we were all really close, and we are still really close. But we were all so excited. So the first few, I would say like 6 months were great. We were just building leaders and we were working towards something. But what happens is like eventually, and I was actually preempted too by one of the VPs that just start replacing your leaders and start replacing the people that move out with you. Like that's what you have to start doing. And this was my, my preemptive combo in assistant management. In my mind, I was like, no, I'm not moving these girls, ones that are leaving her marriage behind, putting that on pause. Like these girls are moving their lives for me, so I can open them up. So I was like, why would I replace them? But that's what they were all telling me, and that's what happened. It's like one by one, you got to replace them. So you lose your core team and you replace them, but things just kind of like snowballed. You get so it's like being broken up with over and over and over and over and over again. And the first few months I made money, but you quickly see the money go and go and go and go. So it just kind of went like my second year was hard.
So, like, I'm curious, what is the logic behind the advice that the one EVP gave you to replace your people? Like, I don't
Yep.
understand why you would even need to do that.
Because they expect them to quit.
Okay.
They're just setting you up for this is what usually happens. Get ready to replace your leaders instead of building leaders around them.
Mm-hmm.
Start training new leaders to fear of lost them, and keep the team strong.
So in a sense, they're teaching you to use the systems, like you said, the fear of loss, to fear of loss your core team into losing their prominence to a new person, essentially.
Yeah, you don't want them to feel like they're like you rely on them.
Okay.
You want them to feel like there's someone else that could take their position.
And I'm sure when they put it in that many words, since we're brought up on the systems and that's all we know, it sounds right? It makes sense to think that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't weird. It made sense. Yeah.
So in your email to us, you stated, quote, I actually was an owner for almost 2 years and spent just over a year in the field. I have a similar but different perception and experience, and it may fall more in the middle of appreciation for the business, but also distrust, and definitely not a fairy tale ending. And that really caught me by surprise because overwhelmingly most of the people that contact us want to tell their story from a negative standpoint, and I don't want to say it's like a personal vendetta, but they feel it's necessary to warn other people because they experience so many negatives and they don't want other people to experience it. But you said yourself you have a different kind of perception, and I definitely want to hear that because I think it's unfair to not consider, okay, well, there might be some positives in this business, even though we focus so much on the negatives, because honestly, that's all we hear. I don't really have any other scope to view it through. So, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about why you have a different perception about it as opposed to maybe others that you've heard.
Yeah, I love that question. Thanks for asking that. Yeah, no, I don't only have hatred or anger or like all of those things. I don't only feel those things. The relationships I built, going through the field, I'm still good friends with those people, most of them. The experience overall, first, like if you want to get good at sales, you will get good at sales because you're learning, how to like drop the nose. You're learning that's a numbers game, kind of removing emotion from it, like having a positive attitude. That's all relevant to sales. So I like that, and like going on road trips, traveling around. Like the field itself, I didn't hate. I didn't hate the field. I liked the field. I didn't want to sit in an office yet. Like I just didn't want to sit in an office all day, so I liked it. It was a lot of time and it make a lot of money. Don't love that. But kind of where things got, where I lost like the trust was in ownership. I trusted things when I was in the field. So I had a good experience there. And I had a good experience my first 6 months in ownership.
Okay, so what changed after that 6 months? Because you're not the first owner to tell me the first few months is good. I made money. And it was
Right.
almost verbatim. Like you've probably seen our previous interviews. The first one we did, she said it kind of took off, but then it hit
Yeah.
this apex and it just sunk from there. So what happened 6 months in?
Right. It wasn't like the T 6 months, but
Yeah.
no, yeah, your first 2 months, your owner pays for everything. Um, which they run those in opportunity meetings, but they don't cover everything. There's there's so much more financially than you would expect, but you really have no bills. It's like when you're a kid living at home making a big paycheck, it's like you have all this extra money, and everyone around you is so excited, and it's so fun, and like you're working towards something, or at least you feel like you are, you think you are, and then things get redundant and more people, like, instead of when you're a leader in the field and 4 of your people quit on your team, you're upset. When you're an owner in the field and you're paying people to quit and they're complaining to you and crying in your office to you that they're not making any money, but really what you're doing is you're going solo on a Saturday and a Sunday and you're handing them your paycheck and they're complaining to you about that, but you can't tell them that, because they're working too. It's just that's when things become really messed up, really hard to deal with. And it's always your fault, which I appreciate that. I do appreciate that, always placing the blame on yourself in any business, any relationship. Like, how can I look at myself and what did I do wrong? Like, I love that. But, when you're lighting money on fire left and right and people keep breaking up with you over and over and over and over again, and they're always the victim, that's it gets like emotionally draining, financially draining, emotionally draining, not healthy.
Sure. Like you're about the I don't even know how many interviews I've done now, so I won't even put a number on it. But I've talked to quite a few people,
Good.
and every former owner I've talked to has told me the exact same thing, and that is when they are promoted, they are instructed to pay themselves only money that they make when they're
Yeah.
in the field. And that just baffles the hell out of me because the whole time you are in this management training program, you are told over and over and over again that
Yeah.
when you make ownership, you will make between $75,000 and $100,000 a year, and they say you will get out of the field.
Yeah.
Maybe not right away, okay, but there are regional consultants who are still in the field every day.
Yeah.
So I guess my question, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get an answer, but why do they tell you, aside from, oh, it's your business and you have to invest in your business, why do they tell you to only pay yourself field money, and how can they justify that statement with the lie that they tell everybody about you're going to make $75,000 to $100,000?
I really think like the only people who would have a really concrete answer for you would be the people who have had 10 outside deals, because there's things that how when you're an entry level you don't know what leaders do, because it's kind of pyramidy, right? It just says, so leaders don't know what owners do. Owners don't know what the regionals are doing. I don't know. I know that. Um, Here's my conclusion. When I closed, I did not leave with any money. I was left with, I believe, $5,000 in debt in my business account. Um, what I think, because you are separate from your business, kind of a side tangent. You're separate from your business. So when I closed, I wasn't left with $5,000 in debt. My promoting owner had to pay that off. So I'm thinking that they're thinking, if you're only going to make a certain amount of money, you're at risk for making a lot of money. They're thinking possibly, I don't want this amount of debt to owe in. Like, they need to be profiting too. But also, I think the intention, there is some good there. They want you to throw money, to retain your team, which is supposed to make you money. So if you're taking if say you profit $1,000 at rotation, and you're taking $1,000 and paying yourself, you don't have any extra income for the business. So how are you going to pay your overhead? How are you going to pay your admin? How are you going to pay, the website?
Yeah, and it baffles me because in the opportunity meetings they paint such a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Like you run all these shows, it averages even what $700 a day, and you make money, and they say you don't take all this home, you pay for your admin and you pay for your supplies and everything, but they still frame it in a way that you take home $75,000. And if you do have an outside deal, since you get a percentage, they still frame that in a way where with one outside deal, that could go to $125,000 a year, but no one is making that money.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't understand how not more owners are
Yeah.
like, creating a mutiny in a sense and saying, wait a minute, everything you've promised me this whole time I've been in this training program is a lie. And I don't know. I personally don't understand it. And I really wish I could figure that out.
A lot of it is because they put the blame on you.
Oh,
Which,
yeah.
which is still half true. It's your fault that, you let Susie quit. It's your fault that you have a $200 NCR average in a campaign, that you've done everything to train this person. It's your fault this person got sick and your show went unstaffed. It's just things happen, and a lot of your shows lose money. And what I didn't realize going to the field, think about how many people turn over before they hit leadership. Those people are not hitting a $600 to $800 NCR, right? So all of those shows are losses. So anyone like, oh, I only dropped 2 bundles yesterday, you're paying a lot of money to those people who only dropped 2, and we've all had those days. So a lot of the money is going towards people who just aren't performing, and that's why they say hire them fast and fire them faster.
So in your message, you continued for this interview, quote, my goal is for people to hopefully see the pros and cons and encourage the regionals and national consultants just to be more honest. So you did mention some of the positives. We did talk about some of the negatives. So what about the behavior or the advice of the regional and national consultants that you received would you consider honest?
A loaded question. Yeah. I mean, the money, right? The money, don't make 75,000. An average owner does not make $75,000. They just, find an average owner who paid themselves $75,000. It's gonna be really hard. But right, it's just
Yeah.
so it's honest. I think with the promotion of let's promote time and money, it all sounds too good to be true, because it is too good to be true. If they're more honest, and I've had other owners reach out to me as they were closing and ask me the closing, how they did it, and how I did it, whatever. But I mean, if they just say, hey, you're gonna make $500 a week pay yourself $500 a week gross if you're lucky. You're gonna work Monday through Sunday. You will get 25 calls a day. You're gonna interview 10 people a day, maybe more. Like if they were honest about what it actually is, then you wouldn't have such high turnover in ownership. But who's going to sell? That's not a good sales package, right? 30 grand, you're going to work 100 hours a week. How excited are you?
Right.
No one's going to be retained.
Yeah.
So if people were more honest, they would retain people who wanted those things. I was making essentially minimum wage if you add up time and a half after 40 hours a week.
Yeah. And on top of that, they're not going to get many people that apply for that either, because there's no there's nothing glamorous about describing it in the honest, correct way. That's why they have to manipulate and they have to hide behind vague language and terminology and things like that.
Yeah. And I don't even know what they're paying themselves, but I don't think their first 3 or 4 years they pay themselves 75,000.
Mm-hmm. So you told us that you were terminated before you hit your 2-year mark in ownership.
Yeah.
So why did they? So take us through that circumstance. Why did they terminate you? What was the reason behind that?
I mean, I think it was a few months of me just being really unhappy. And my promoting owner, I thought we had a good friendship. I think she could tell by like the tone in my voice, because we spoke almost every day. She could hear that I wasn't happy. So I think kind of seeing me on my way out, I think it helps to offer a retrain, which I don't like the words terminate, but to offer someone a retrain is the same thing as, hey, you're closing down and you're fired from your own company.
Right.
I didn't want to retrain, so I declined that. I didn't want to go back into the field for another year and a half to go through another 2 years of hell. So I wasn't really motivated by that. So I was essentially, I didn't have an option to go go in for a couple of weeks and go make some money. It was you're done. You're not taking this offer. Like that call was devastating. That call wasn't my choice. I was trying. I was really unhappy, but I wasn't. I was kind of throwing in the towel, but I was going to still see what could happen. I had a few good rotations where I profited like 3,000. Then it's gone next week. But it was. They always promote that you can't fire yourself, right? They always promote. I don't know if you saw those in your opportunity meetings too, but if you're an entrepreneur, you can never fire yourself. No, you can get fired in Smart Circle. A retrain is being terminated. If you don't say yes to a job you don't want, you're fired, and you don't get unemployment. So you're terminated without unemployment, and you might have no money, no income. You have no time to interview. You're just kind of left out like garbage thrown in the street. So you can't be fired. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like everyone else has told me too, that money that you're making is your business money. Like you really don't get to keep it. And I've had multiple owners tell me that when they either decided to close or in your case, in other cases, turn the retrain down, that their money was gone. And you said that you yourself were left with 5,000 in debt in your business account. And you said that might have been because you brought up the idea of unemployment too, because when they decide to terminate your office,
Yeah.
you're not going to get unemployment because technically, well, theoretically, I guess you own your own business, even though technically you don't own your own business. So
Yeah.
that's a nice little way for them to skirt that issue.
Yeah.
So how did you end up responding to that? Like you put so much into this business for 3 years, and now they just kind of wipe their hands of you. Where did you go from there?
I actually did something kind of unique. And one of the girls that just spoke to me too, out of Canada, she did the same thing. She had reopened so many times. She went to go be the administrator for some time. I noticed a direct TV person did that too, and I was in the field and talking to her. Same thing, that my competitor in my market, we opened up the same day. Same outside deals from the same, it was basically my regionals. It's hard to explain. My regionals, one of her outside deals, it was her second generation. So we opened up the same day. We were already considering kind of collaborating offices because we were competing. And what I did, I called him to let him know that just to keep the right people that wanted to stick around and they were excited. I didn't want to just fire everyone. So I let people go that I know were going to do bad and not make money. So I let them go in a nice way. You don't put them back on the schedule. So let them go, wish them the very best. I knew they were going to not make money. And then I took some of my leaders and some of the people pushing, and I gave them to my competitor. And then I told him that on like a Thursday. He called me the next day and he offered me a position to kind of work with him as kind of a co-management situation, which really was me in the field for a month going solo, which was great because I made $1,000 a week, so I was never bad in the field, and it was around Christmas. So I stayed in the business for another month because I had no other option. I needed the money, and some of that money actually went to my regional consultant because I felt bad leaving her with debt. So at the time, I felt like we were still friends, so I did take some of my paycheck and put it into her account because she was paying off a lot of my debt. So I stayed in for a month, and then I was going on job interviews, for a little bit. A major thing they do, which you probably were told to, you've seen owners quit before, right? When you were in the field.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think when you saw people closing?
Well, when I was in the business,
Yeah.
I remember the first time one of the leaders in our office quit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was strange to me because I had probably been in the business. I was already a leader. I had probably already been there for about 3 months or so. And they're the first leader that quit. And I was kind of like, well, why would this person quit? This is such a great opportunity,
Right?
And then I didn't know directly, like personally, any owners that quit while I was in the business, but I know that like early in my time there, they would give me a name and a number to network with, and then a couple months later, oh well, that person's not an owner anymore, and it's just kind of like, I wonder why. And then you just kind of move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
You don't really think too much about it.
great. And I don't think that'll ever change because, it is kind of cult like where you just kind of trust the people around you. But I think if they really want to, I don't know if they'll ever change, but I do wish I asked more questions because I watched my regional close potentially like 7 to 8 outside deals. And what I was always told, they're kind of like shunned, like if you're Amish and they're shunned away from your community. I wish I asked more questions because they give you a very generic answer. Their goals changed, or maybe they tell you like that person just wasn't really good. They weren't cut out for ownership. None of that actually means anything. Those are vague answers. What do you mean they're not cut out? They made it into ownership for a reason, right? So I just wish I asked more questions. I wish I didn't see those people as like, oh, I'm so different. You were obviously a bad owner. That's not going to happen to me. But why would anyone, quote unquote, hit their goals making 75 to 6 figures in your 20s or whatever, 30s, right? Why would you quit that? If you were happy, you had free time and money, why would you leave? That's retention. That's HR 101. You don't leave that. You just don't. So I think if you understood and asked more questions, and I wish I did, I don't regret anything. But I wish I knew the truth. I just wish they were more honest, and I don't think they'll ever change. But think about why someone making 6 figures, running their own business, would quit. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, because you mentioned you're promoting owner, you're regional. She's regional. She had, I think you just said like she's had 6 or 7 outside deals close. I
Yeah,
know that the office where I started, she is also regional,
yeah,
and I don't think any of the outside deals she has ever promoted are still in the business. I know all the ones that she promoted that I went through the field with, they're all closed.
yeah.
Like I wonder to what do they tell themselves? Like they're this far in, I know. They've been in it for years, but are at some point you have to start questioning why aren't my outside deals sticking? And I'm sure they've been taught that it's something they're doing, but the systems work and just keep going. I feel like that's and it's absence of critical thought because you can't think critically in the business because they'll say that's negative. And I just wish I knew how you get to that point.
And I'm just guessing. So I never, was a regional, of course, but it's they say the systems are everything, and the entry level, the systems are everything, and leadership, the systems are everything, ownership. Why wouldn't the systems be everything if you're regional? So if you're regional and it's law of averages and you need 10 no's to get, or 9 no's over to get 1 yes, you might need 10 outside deals to get that one solid outside deal who sticks. And that's just what they expect turnover and ownership, and they're just waiting for the yes. So, with that, they're going to lose a lot, but they just think they keep pushing through to get the yes. They remove a lot of the emotion.
Hmm. So I'm curious, this can be on or off the record. It's up to you.
Yeah.
So what were some of your main concerns in wanting to keep your identity hidden?
I just don't. I don't want to. I mean, within Smart Circle, like I don't mind. I want people to make their own decision. Like it's not up to me for someone to quit. That's up to them. I don't, their life, not mine. But I do think, and I don't want my name. Like I'm really moved past Smart Circle and all of this stuff. Good and bad. I'm just kind of on to the next thing. I don't want my like current company associated. I don't want, like my family associated. I don't want to be associated at all. That I've potentially, like made people's lives more stressful by me running my business and, them being in the field and all. Like I don't want to be associated. If
Okay.
someone wants to, listen to any of these videos, they're listening because they're already on the fence of quitting. But I just think they deserve honesty. But I don't want anything else to do with Smart Circle.
Okay. But you felt strongly enough about it to still tell your
Yeah,
story about it.
yeah. And the other thing is too, like I told you, I really do believe there are positive aspects that I appreciate. I'm still in recruiting and sales, but I don't want to associate that with my company because it's a very different you know, the way everyone's treated and time is more valued and you're respected and you're paid for your time, which is great. You know, I just different.